All right, ready? Okay, so I'm going to call this meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Okay, for roll call, everybody is present. This meeting was posted with all the proper notices by the county clerk's office. And we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to call this meeting of the. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman. Mute your,
Mine is muted.
got the volume all the way down. Okay, it does
Okay,
that on these once in a while.
yeah, yeah.
Reverb.
So, yep, so that's not me. All right, so I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Supervisor Toma, second. Supervisor Milliken. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the consent agenda is approved. Okay, discussion items. Our district attorney is not here, so we are going to move right on to the next one, which is the vicious dog appeal. So I'm going to turn it over to our county attorney, Brad Stern, to kind of familiarize the committee with what we're going to be doing today, because it's a little bit different than what we normally do.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay. So this morning, pursuant to the Washington County Code, chapter 172-13, this committee is going to hold a hearing to determine whether or not to uphold the decision of the sheriff's office to deem the appellant's dog as vicious. This will be done by the committee holding the hearing. The sheriff will present his case. Actually, the appellant, as I understand it, will then have a chance to rebut. And as far as the matter is concerned, once the committee has taken the evidence, then the committee can make a motion to move into closed session to deliberate whether or not it chooses to uphold the decision, modify or reverse it. I'm of course here to assist throughout this process. But at that point, the chair of the committee will preside over the hearing. And if there's any procedural issues that might come up as we go along, I'll be happy to weigh in and assist in any way I can.
Okay, and I had written down some kind of ground rules as well. So this is a formal hearing, like an administrative law hearing. Actually, District Attorney Benson just got here. So why don't we shift over? We'll put this on hold for a second, rather than make the district attorney wait through this whole thing. Let him come up and present on his EOS report.
Mr. Chairman,
Are you, what?
I would recommend for the minutes you take a motion to table the hearing, and that way you can move back to the district attorney's report. And then
Okay.
once the district attorney's report is finished, you can make a motion to remove from the table, and then we can go back to the hearing.
So I'm gonna ask for a motion to table so we can go to district attorney's report. Supervisor Milliken, second. Okay, Supervisor Krebs. All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, so now it's on the table, so District Attorney Benson can come up. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility too, so. That's okay.
It seems like most of the time when I'm on time, no one else is on time, and the times when I'm not on time is when everyone else is on time. I sincerely apologize. I got to get used to the smells. I'm sorry about that. And I appreciate your flexibility, and as I could have waited. So I'm sorry about that. I haven't really done one of these reports. I think we're on task on all aspects of our initiatives and pillars and goals. We've had since the last time we've had 3 graduates of drug treatment course. It's been that's been a positive, and like is expected, there are some individuals that are in the program right now that are struggling and having some recurring use issues, and that's unfortunate. We have another individual that is potentially coming into the program from out of county that's causing some problems in our jail. We'll have to deal with that as well. So there are some. I guess it's generally going as expected, with some hiccups and challenges. but all hiccups and challenges that are, I think, within the realm of reasonableness. And with regard to other aspects of all the other initiatives and goals are on task. We've had some challenges in the office, as I think some of the other departments have had, with regard to individuals leaving the office, and not necessarily retention issues, but just individuals that have left with attorneys and other individuals for different positions, better opportunities, more power to them. And it took a little while for us to fill some of those slots, but we've filled the 2 attorney slots and working out really well. And we filled another slot in our office for a legal secretary position. We cherry picked from another wonderful department. So that's one of those types of cases that I think the county is trying to do, where people, if they have the ability, for whatever reason, to move within the county. I think that's something that I think the supervisors feel is an important thing. It's unfortunate for one department when someone goes to another department, but I think as a county government and organization, it's nice to keep good people, even if they're going from one place to another. So that's essentially what I have. I haven't done is are kind of new to me, so I can try to answer any questions if you guys have.
Yeah. Well, the whole process is new to all of us as well. What questions do people have for the district attorney? I think we're all anxious to get on to the vicious dog.
Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm very sorry for my lack
Oh,
of.
no, that's
Yeah,
okay.
no, thank you.
Yep,
Thank
I
you for-
appreciate it. Thank you. Yep. All right, so now we need a motion to pick this off from the table, and I know I passed over Pam before, so Supervisor Conrath, you want to make that motion?
Sure.
Okay, second, Supervisor Milliken. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, we're back to our vicious dog appeal. So essentially, this is going to be a formal hearing like an administrative law hearing. The issue, as our county attorney said, is we're going to be deciding whether or not the sheriff is correctly applying the county's vicious dog ordinance in his determination that he made related to these incidents. Now, he referenced County Ordinance 172-13A subsection 2. Any dog which attacks a human being or another domestic animal without provocation. So Mr. Jansen will have the burden of showing that the sheriff is not correctly applying that law. Now, I'm not an experienced administrative law judge. I'm not an attorney. So I'm going to ask for some help in keeping this orderly. I want to ask everybody to wait till it's their turn to speak and that we not have any exceptions to that. And I'll try to make sure everybody knows when it's their turn to speak. Each witness is going to be sworn in. The sheriff, it looks like, will testify first, and then any supporting witnesses he has. And then Mr. Jansen will get the opportunity to present his case and testify. And if he has any witnesses, he can call them. While they're giving their testimony, I might ask questions. Then after all my questions, committee members may also ask questions of these witnesses, and Mr. Jansen can ask any questions he has. Anything submitted as evidence will be given an exhibit number and collected by our legislative assistant, Mike. The meeting packet had the sheriff's letter. I'm gonna right away ask that we mark that as exhibit 1. It also had Mr. Jansen's appeal letter, and I'm gonna ask that that be exhibit 2. When we're given testimony, we really should focus primarily on the 4 incidents that are outlined in the sheriff's letter. I'm not gonna allow any discussion related to proposed fences or lot line encroachments or shrubbery that crosses lot lines. No discussion about anybody else's dogs unless it's something that specifically relates to those 4 incidences. No concerns about the credibility of any of the homeowners in the neighborhood either. Mr. Jansen, it looks like does want to offer some testimony about positive interactions between his dogs and some of the neighbors, and that makes sense to allow. Obedience training and accounts from other pet care providers and veterinarians, it also makes sense to allow. After all the witnesses have spoken, as as our county attorney mentioned, we'll go into closed session then to deliberate this. We'll come back into open session to formally vote, and at the end, our county attorney and myself will work together to draft a formal determination document. So this is a lot more formal than what we're used to. And this is appealable to circuit court. So that's why we want to kind of try to follow a lot of these legal processes that we may not be the most familiar with. So, yep. All right, with that, I'm going to swear in our county sheriff here. So do you want to raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God? Okay, all right. And just for the record, state your name and position.
Sure. So I'm Martin Schultes, SCHULTEIS, Sheriff of Washington County.
Okay, and for the record, exhibit 1 is a letter you issued to Mr. Jansen determining his dogs as vicious. Is that correct?
That's correct. October 20th of 2022.
Okay, and you drafted that letter, correct?
Correct.
Okay, would you walk through the incidents there? Start with incident number 1 and your understanding of the facts related to those incidents.
Sure. So the basis for the determination, and first off, just let me say that I don't take these determinations lightly or arbitrarily for 2 reasons. Because number 1, it's government telling an individual what they have to do on their private property. That's significant to me. And number 2 is the financial burden that goes along with these type of thing. So I'd like to just kind of give you a framework for how many of these cases we investigated versus how many of these determinations.
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is in my first term here as sheriff, not quite 4 years, it's coming up on 4 years, that our department has investigated 269 animal bites. And of those, that's usually how the vicious dog determination comes in. As you can see, some of the criteria isn't necessarily animal bite. That's one of the standards that we applied. And of those 269 incidents that we've investigated, 5 of them rose to the level where I thought a vicious dog determination was appropriate. We had 2 in 2019, 1 in 2020. Had none in 2021, and this year we've had 2. So like I said, I don't take these lightly at all, and a lot of thought goes into the process.
Yep.
So what I want to point out, this particular case is it's a little different than other cases that determinations that I've made, and for 2 reasons. Number 1 is, usually we have multiple case numbers, multiple different reports that I cite in the letters. Like there's the dog bite in this state and then this state, and they all have different case numbers. This particular case, you'll notice it just has 1 case number. But when we look back at it, what happened, the investigating deputy would look at the most recent incident, and then he would learn of a different call, a different incident, and then he would go back and investigate that one, and then it would lead to another case at a different address that wasn't reported to us, and so we backtracked under 1 case number. So that's a little odd in this particular case. The other case, if you'll notice, the date of occurrence, the most recent one is May of 2022, and I didn't write the letter until October. That's a pretty significant. That's 5 months. And so we're always trying to gain compliance, and what we want to do is just keep the community safe. So the deputy was attempting to work with the dog owner on a variety of different areas, including a fence, and that just didn't pan out. That's why the delay in the letters that we thought Mr. Jansen will talk about this, I'm sure, but we had thought that he was going to secure the perimeter of the residence with a fence, not necessarily a fence that would be containment per this ordinance. It wouldn't be with enclosure with a roof and down 2 feet. But it was a proactive approach that we thought that if he was trying to contain the dog, it would be adequate. But now I'm sorry, not to go back to the cases that we're investigating. So if it's all, like I said, it's all documented under one case number. And I actually have these reversed a little bit, I see. The most recent case was on May 21st of 2022. We were summoned to an address on Sunnydale Court, and that complaint is actually here that you could hear directly from him, or if you want to hear an overview of it, I can provide that as well. But with that, what it basically is that one of the pit bull mixes, Nezzy, came onto the property at about 6 p.m. on the 21st and bit the complainant's dog on the right side on the complainant's property. The complainant was able to get himself between the two dogs, kicked Nezzy, and the dog stopped after the complainant was screaming at him. And Mr. Jansen, he came over and got the dog and was able to take the dog home. While we were investigating that case, the complainant indicated that the previous week before that the dog, Nezzy in this case, which is a female mixed breed pit bull, brindle, I'm sorry, gray blue in color, with a 2021 dog license tag of 4660, came onto the property and began to charge the complainant's dog on the complainant's property again. And the complainant, he can testify to this, what exactly occurred, but he was able to yell at the dog, and the dog returned home on its own accord. But more significant to that was the cases that we learned of prior to this. That one case was in October of 2020, so we're talking 2 years ago now. But so during the course of that initial dog at large and dog bite complaints, we learned that there was a female homeowner at 1342 Sunnydale Court that was bit in 2020. We offered, you have to understand that these are all neighbors, so neighbors don't want to agitate each other. So she preferred not to get involved with that, which I completely understand, but it's still pertinent to the designation or the information. But on 2020, on the 7th of October, this was the brindle and brown female mixed breed as Niobe. According to the homeowner, she was in the backyard of her residence, and one of the children of the Jansen were holding on to the dog on the road, walking the dog. I was able to pull away from the child and pulled the young child across the yard and bit the homeowner on the left elbow on her own property. And I do have photos of that. That's part of the case report. So if you'd like to see that and have those entered into evidence or exhibits.
I think it makes sense to do that. Is this a copy that we can enter and you'll still have a copy? Right?
Yes. The only thing I would say is that I can't testify that we didn't take those pictures. So
Right.
I guess that's the only thing is
Yeah.
they were
I
taken.
think with administrative law hearings, so that would still be allowed, correct? Or is it? I'm kind of deferring to our county attorney for some thoughts on that. He's more familiar with these procedures.
Generally speaking, these particular matters, rules of evidence that would not apply. The committee will still have to determine whether or not the photographs are and they make that determination. I guess it'll be up to you if the committee wants to receive the exhibits and then later determine whether or not they're those are things you want to give any weight to. You can do that in your deliberations and discuss that. But as the sheriff indicated, his agency did not take those photographs, and so the question becomes, what do those photographs depict? Who took those pictures? Were they really caused by a dog bite? So what's some other things that I have to consider? But as far as accepting the exhibit, of entering the record, I suppose that's
So
your
we
call.
can accept them and we recognize that what the sheriff's office has is photographs that were presented by the homeowner that the homeowner took and claims are of a bite they received.
Correct.
Is that, yeah, so, yep, so let's do that, and then when we deliberate, we can figure out what weight, if any, we're gonna give to those, so, yep.
Right.
Okay, do you have those ready?
I'll have to pull them out of a PDF.
Oh, okay, and you wanna maybe email them to Mike?
I
then,
can
and-
email them to Mike sure
Yeah,
during
okay,
the process here. Absolutely.
yep, okay,
So then during the course of speaking with that female homeowner that allegedly was bit on the left forearm, she also indicated in August of 2019, they literally were just in the process of moving into their residence. And this incident involved the gray blue female dog named Nesby. As the female complainant told, or female witness actually shorter than the complainant, told the deputy that when they were moving into the residence, they observed the Nesby sitting on the Jansen's driveway. And then the dog ran down the road and entered the homeowner's driveway and attacked their young dog. She indicated that the Nessie was barking at her, but did not bite her, but bit the witness's dog. And Mr. Jansen then responded to the residents and removed the dog without incident. There's also some other, I think we heard from Mr. Shea. He will be able to give you a little more specifics about the two incidents on his property, and even the third incident that I need just made me aware of. So it might be beneficial to hear from him.
okay. So some questions I have, looking at incidents 1, 2, and 4. It's not directly stated in there, so we can make assumptions, but I prefer to put it on the record. Were these dogs unleashed during incidents 1, 2, and 4?
1, 2, and there was the one incident that it was leashed, but was pulled in, but the other
Right,
ones,
that
they,
was
they,
number 3.
yeah,
Yeah,
I believe the reports said that they were unleashed, except for that one, the
okay,
the
yep,
third incident.
yeah. Was there anything mentioned as to why, as to whether there was any provocation of the dogs by other dogs or people?
No,
Okay. Was Mr. Jansen actually present for the instance where he retrieved the dogs? Was that 2 and 4? Was he actually present, or was he not there and heard something, arrived there and retrieved the dog?
I don't know for sure. I guess I don't want to assume.
Yeah,
I could give you some assumptions, but I'd rather
Yeah.
not.
okay. And in all these incidents, the dogs were not on their owner's property, but on other people's property. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's not necessarily a criteria for the determination of
Yeah,
what we've kind of internally done is if we have 2 instances of off property, that we'll start to seriously look at the determination.
do we know the approximate age of the child in incident number 3?
I do not.
Okay. Do we know if the owner took any remedial actions after incidents number 3 and 4?
Like besides our conversations about a fence,
So 3 and 4 happened in 2019 and 2020. So after that, was there anything the homeowner did to prevent future incidents before the May 2022 incidents?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right, and those are things that we can ask Mr. Jansen about when he testifies as well. Trying to think what else might be good to ask about. What questions do other committee members have for the sheriff? Yep.
There's mention when the lady was bit on the elbow. There's mention of photos of something on her knee too. What,
There was when she was pulled to the ground, there was a small scrape on it. I have a photo of that as well, if you'd like to see that.
thank you.
Yeah, we can bring that in as with the other photos. Yep. Other questions for the county sheriff? I don't see any others. I'm trying to think through what other questions. Oh, when the deputy was investigating these, did he speak with Mr. Jansen?
Yes.
Okay, did Mr. Jansen offer to the deputy any account of what happened or why it happened?
I have to, I'm assuming you did, I have to read, it's a 29-page report. And I didn't know, to be honest, I didn't know if you would have access to that report to review or if it have to be testified to.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've done one of these.
Yeah,
reports from
yeah, so
lawyers.
we're kind of developing a process and yeah, totally get it. Do you have access to that report? that
I'm
could
looking,
be-
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, why don't we submit that as an exhibit too? So that would be exhibit 4, I believe. Does that make sense to kind of looking at our county attorney? Is there any reason why that would not be an exhibit that we would enter?
Again, for the same reasons that I stated before, I mean, you give these exhibits credibility that you think they deserve based on their contents. Typically in administrative proceedings, as I indicated before, the evidence don't apply. The general rule has always been in the state of Wisconsin that you can't base decisions so uncorroborated hearsay evidence, for example.
Yeah.
So there are things within reports that you won't give credence to, or other things you might. There's nothing that prevents something as an exhibit and determining later on what value to this community.
Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and enter that as an exhibit as well. So. And then that way it's part of the record for if there's a future appeal as well, so, yep. Mr. Jansen, can you hear me okay?
I can, and good morning to the board. Thank you for your time.
Yep. So at this point, this is your opportunity to ask questions of the county sheriff for information he would be able to testify to. What questions do you have for our county sheriff?
Well, first of all, going to these photos, is there any timestamp on these photos? Date stamp of the elbow bite?
Let me. On the photos themselves, no.
Okay. Being that I haven't heard of the 29-page report. In that report, does it say how this alleged incident of my son being dragged across the yard, how was it resolved? A bit curious if the dog was dragging and biting, how was he able to regain this? Because there's no account on his side from this. So perhaps this homeowner has elaborated on that.
I don't know how that one was out. The one in 2019. Are you talking about where she was bit or the dog was bitten? Her dog was bitten in 2019.
The ones that would go with their photos, I believe that was 2019 then, was it?
Let's call that the way I kind of did this is I kind of had the incidents numbered in the order they appear. So let's call that incident number 3, the 10/7/2020. Does that make sense to everybody? And so that way we can keep them straight. So the 5/14 would be incident number 1, 5/21/2022 would be incident number 2. And that way we can kind of easily reference these. So we'll call that incident number 3. And Sheriff, if you want to answer how that resolved itself, how control over the dog was regained.
Yeah, can we just go by the dates, please?
We could do that as well, if that makes it
Because
easier.
that's what's right in front of us.
Yeah, let's do that then. So for the 10/7/2020 incident, how did they regain control of the dog in that incident?
I'm trying to look through the report. So was it your son was there? So I'm assuming your son took the dog home.
Again, by his accounts, this never happened, so it's difficult for us to determine how it would have been resolved. I'm just looking for a little bit more depth and substance to this claim.
I'll be very honest, Mr. Jansen, when we tried to talk to you, you weren't very cooperative. I didn't want to get into it, but
Okay. Let's focus on what the question was, which was looking at how the incident was resolved. So if you want to glance through the report and see if there's information gathered on there. While he's looking, Mr. Jansen, when you testify, you'll have the opportunity to say that you talked to your son and your son didn't remember it.
Okay,
Avoid entering your facts in when you're asking questions of the
all right,
sheriff.
understood, understood.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's procedural. I know we're not attorneys, we're trying our best to do this right and.
Very good.
She said the child took the dog back home
Okay,
and then she took photos and sent them directly to the deputy.
that day?
No, and when we're investigating in May.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have other questions, Mr. Jansen?
I believe I have one more. In that 29-page report, is there any reference to Mr. Shea's recommendation of a galvanized wire fence separating his property and mine?
As in a privacy fence?
No, just as in a deterrence fence.
I think that's gonna get a little bit too far afoul of what we're here to do today.
I apologize. This report, why we've asked for a report, and this is the first I've heard of it.
Continue, please. So I want to really stay focused on these four
Please.
incidents. I know there's been some disputes between you and Mr. Shea about some things with fences, lot lines, where some things are planted, but I really want to keep that
Understood.
out of our purview today and really focus on these four incidents.
Very
Does
good.
that make sense?
To in a certain extent, yes. I think some of the lot line issues plays a big part in determining how vicious Mr. Shea's seen these dogs. So, but I digress.
I respect your thoughts on that, but because we're creating an official record, I think we really want to stay focused on these four incidents. So,
Perfect.
did you have other questions you wanted to ask the county sheriff?
No, not at this time.
Okay, sounds good. And Sheriff Schulteis, did you have witnesses that you wanted to present?
Yes, I would like to call up Mr. Michael Shea. He is the property owner directly adjacent to the Jansen residence and can speak to the first two the most recent incidents.
Sounds good. All right, so Mr. Shea, I need you to raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, and please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Shea, 1384 Sunnydale Court in Hubertus, Wisconsin, 53033.
Okay, I want to hold up 1 second. Is his microphone active? Okay, can we have you restate that just so, because we know the microphone picks it up? Sorry about that.
My name is Michael Shea. I live at 1384 Sunnydale Court, Hubertus, Wisconsin, 53033.
Okay, and were you present for the May 14th incident that occurred there?
I was.
Okay, would you please describe what happened during that incident?
I'd received a text message from my friend and his wife. They had just finished eating they were celebrating their wedding anniversary and they were at Johnny Manhattan's. They said, "Hey, can we come over?" And they wanted to see my garden in the back. I was going to give them some rhubarb. I said, "Come on over." So they pulled up on my driveway, hopped out. We did the usual chatting like we would do. Got them some rhubarb. We walked back on my driveway. My dog was with me. My dog is a puppy at the time. She's a white Labrador. Her name is Broccoli. And Broccoli was a fun name that I gave her because I wanted all the kids in the neighborhood to know that we're continuing the friendly dog at our house like we have in the past. My prior dog was Bella. All the kids would come over and play with her. And that's what I want. Doesn't bark, doesn't bite, and doesn't jump. And that was the criteria that I have for my dogs. So while we're on the driveway and the dog is sitting between us, this is the first incident. We're talking and just, it's a nice warm day out. All of a sudden out of we have arborvitaes and some Japanese yews that separate the lot line, which is a parking area for my truck because we can't get in the garage. And it's up on the platform. The gray dog, Nezzy, suddenly just unknown to us that the dog was even out, comes bursting through these arborvitaes and comes growling, snapping, hairs up on the dog, and it's charging the three of us and my dog. So my friend Todd, I've got his phone number. He's waiting to get a call. He'll testify too because he couldn't be here. He works in a sewage plant and they don't have the Zoom there. So he said, well, offer the phone number. He'll tell you in his own words what happened, but I'm going to tell you what I saw. So the dog is on full charge. It's snapping, it's growling. It means business. It's coming after either my friends or my dog, who has done nothing. It's an unprovoked surprise attack that occurred on my property, well into my property. So what I did was, I'm not intimidated by dogs. I've had lots of contact with pit bulls in my career. And I continue to have that, so I know that you got to challenge it right away. And if it doesn't have a determined target, there was 4 of us there, somebody's got to take some defensive action. So I did. So I charged at it, and that stopped the attack about, I want to say about 10 feet before the 4 of us and my dog. This is a puppy, and the dog is now shaking. So I yelled at the dog. I'm screaming at the dog. The dog turns around, kind of like, I don't want to diminish what it was doing, but it was kind of like flipping me off, like there'll be another time. And I grabbed my dog, told my friends, get in your car and just wait here. I threw my dog into the house for safety, and I promptly went over to the Jansen residence looking for John. I found him on a back patio. He was drinking. He was in the sun. He likes to drink his Pabst, and I think he was 3 sheets to the wind. And when I said, hey, your dog just attacked me, he said, oh, sorry. That was all I got. So I went back, told my friends that. I said, you're safe. I said, I don't know what's going on with the dog. The dog has been over at my house more and more. It's looking for a territory. And as we both know, as we all know, dogs will demonstrate their superior in strength by doing dominant things to weaker dogs. And when you got a puppy, a puppy's an easy prey. It's like offering the chicken house to the fox. The chickens will never be a problem, right? So that day went by. There was no other contact with the dog. So that was the first incident. So it moves into the second one right after that, less than a week later. You want me to continue with that or not?
Yeah, go ahead and continue with the second.
Okay, so I have a date. And that, I believe that was 5/22. I'm not sure on it because I didn't put it on my thing here. But anyway, no, it wasn't 5/22. Whatever the report's got, 21st. All right, again, I'm on my driveway, minding my own business. My dog is sitting with me. I just need you to know that when I tell you that the dog is sitting by me, I am just, I'm relentless on training my dog. I started out with a dog that bit me when I was a kid, and I never forgot that. I got rid of the dog and I swore that my dogs would never bite anybody. So I went and I got labs, and out of the labs, I did professional training. I had to go for 2 weeks up to Minnesota because I got deeply involved in field trials. And I was very successful in my training. I had to go for collar training for 2 weeks. So I have a background on what to do, and the psychology of training was always there, and I applied it to my dogs. So when my dogs would even start to look at the property lines or go close to them, they'd get called back. And they'd know that there's a negative response that would come from me. And the negative response, and I'll show you, I'd give them the finger. And it's not the finger that everybody knows, but it's like that. That's how I do it. I don't hit my dogs. I don't kick my dogs. I don't scream at the dogs. She gets the finger. She knows she did something wrong. So we go back to the story, and you know that I've got some professional training behind me. I'm on the driveway again, and all I'm doing is I'm moving our garbage cans around for pickup. And once again, a surprise attack occurs by the same dog, this Nessie, this gray. Only this time she gets my dog and she chews the dog up. So what do? I'm screaming and hollering and I'm going, where is John Jansen? Wait, why is this dog out again without any supervision? Well, he was in the garage. And what happens with both of these dogs is they just silently wander off. And you don't know that they're even gone. And that's what happened again with this dog. Only this time it chewed my dog and it chewed it pretty good. So while I'm yelling and screaming, he comes running over, gets control of his dog. The damage is already done. And he says to me, is your dog okay? And I said, how would I know? This just happened, right? So he gets his dog, takes the dog back. I take my dog in the house and I go over and I talk to him a little bit later. And I said, I'm going to report this to the sheriff. And his reaction was very terse, like, do what you got to do. Like it's a challenge to me. Like I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I said, I'm tired of this because there's been a long history of the dogs coming over and bothering my friends. And the guy that's the telephone number I'll supply you with was witness to several other incidents that I think you'd like to be aware of. So as this progressed, I want to commend the deputy that did the investigation. This took a long time. And there was deliberate stall tactics involved in this also. There was an attempt to even avoid, and we're not going to talk about the fence, but I can at least tell you that there was an attempt to avoid the ruling by one of our building inspectors to go around him to have somebody else rule in favor of the fence by John Jansen.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, we're getting a little.
I know, but I mean, that played into this because there was a resolution that was presented to me by the deputy. And
Yeah.
the deputy came over what would be a reasonable resolution to invoke this.
There was, the sheriff mentioned that there may have been a third incident that you. Yeah.
There was. I went,
Tell us about that.
Certainly. It's not with this dog, just so you know, this puppy,
Is it with
my other dog.
it's not with, it's a prior incident from a few years ago. Okay, and which of his dogs was it?
It's the same dog. No, I'm sorry. It's the brown dog. It's the brown dog.
Okay,
These are both rescued pit bulls. They're pretty big. The gray one is the stronger of the two, and it's always exerting dominance to show that it's going to be the boss. So when I'm first introduced to the dog, John brought the dog over here. This is, I believe it's Niobe. It's the brown one.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought things were going okay, but within like a week or so, the dog chewed my dog Bella up to the point where he offered to pay for all the medical expenses that I incurred for the bites that dog inflicted on my dog. My dog was an older dog, so older dogs just, they roll over and just give up. And there was nothing I could do about that. But he was there when it happened with me. And that's why, I thought there was a pretty upfront for him to say that. And I said, no, I'll take care of it because other dogs that I've had to tend to in the field, they run into barbed wire fences, any number of injuries. I know how to, take care of it myself. But there's some that fester. And that's where I'm going with this too, because if you have a festering bite puncture just isn't a bite, it's a puncture and it doesn't heal. And that's what happened with my puppy. It becomes an allergic reaction to the toxins that came from a dirty mouth. One of the things that I wanted to know, were the dogs up to snuff on their shots? And the answer is no. That happened after the deputy went over and asked that question. That was crucial for me because the dog had to go on steroids then, because I didn't want that to transfer into the blood system of my animal. I put a lot of time, a lot of money in this dog for it to die of sepsis. So that allergic reaction that comes with, that comes with a bite, because dogs have dirty mouths, it was a direct reflection on his inability to license properly and keep the shots up for these dogs. So I found that out, and I thought that was key.
How is your puppy doing? Is he healed kind of news?
I had her in, I've got the vet records with me, and I went back in, I want to see, in September. And I said, I want you to do a check on the dog, because the dog exhibited a couple of things afterwards that weren't normal. You know, you get to know your animals. Anybody's had a farm, you know what your cattle are going to do, you know what your horses are going to do, and you know what your dogs are going to do. So I had noticed that whenever I take her out of my garage, which faces the Jansen property, sorry, she'd stop at the door of my garage and she'd be looking around like, are these dogs out there?
Yeah.
Because she wanted nothing to do with them, because they scared her.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, she's okay now, but she did lose her coat. She lost her entire coat because of that infection. And that's what really concerned me, because, you know, you don't want your dog to die.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the steroids and everything else that I bought overcame everything. The puncture would eventually sealed up, and I think she's okay on that. But thanks for asking anyway. I appreciate it.
Okay. Let's see, and it seems pretty clear that your testimony is that your dog didn't do anything to provoke these attacks. The dogs weren't leashed.
I didn't say that they weren't leashed, but I wanted to touch on some of the questions that you asked the sheriff, and that was one of them. They're not leashed.
Yeah. Let's see. And you mentioned where the owner was for these incidents. Okay, so I think that covers what I had. What questions do you guys have at this point for Mr. Shea? Okay.
I just have a couple things I'd like to say, if that's possible. Both of these are unprovoked surprise attacks. There is no question about it. My witness will attest to the first incident that you refer to as number one, and he'll let you know in an unfiltered way. Let's put it that way, because it's the attack scared the hell out of him and his wife. They thought they were going to get chewed, and who wants that to happen when you're visiting somebody at all? The other thing is that because both of these dogs are rescues, this is his third pit bull, second and third pit bulls. The first one he had was a rescue also, and that one was just, it suddenly disappeared one day because it was so aggressive. So to feign knowledge that you don't know that this is a biting dog breed, it's got nothing to do with it.
I don't to get into characterization group.
Okay.
Because there are people who have very good pit bulls. So,
There are, I've got friends that have got nice pit bulls. Sure,
yeah.
but they train them.
Let's go to Mr. Jansen. What questions do you have for Mr. Shea? And before you ask, I do want to remind you that you guys are neighbors and want to keep a good relationship too. So these are questions where he's providing testimony, so, and not argumentative. So.
Sure. Sure.
Hold on a minute,
these-
John. Hold on. Can I ask the last two questions This is questions that I'd like to ask the panel.
So you're providing testimony.
Okay, that's
So,
fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So-
Sure, go ahead, John.
Mike, do you ever recall both Nezzy and Niobe being in your yard friendly?
It's kind of broken over here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a little difficult to hear you at first too, when you first gave your oath. Maybe you can hear me now. Both these dogs, Nezzy and Niobe, has there ever been a time when they were friendly in your yard?
If I said no, I'd be lying. There's been a couple of times when you're there with them that their behavior is different when you're with them. And when they're alone, of the two, the brown one would be the one that I would trust versus the gray one, Nessie.
But so to answer his question, there have been times when you've had positive interaction.
Yes, there is. There is.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Jameson.
Yes, one more question, if I may, for Mike. In between Bella and Broccoli, there was a time when you were without a dog. Would you agree that you would almost welcome my dogs into your yard in that time when you were without a dog?
The answer is yes, with a little explanation. When you have aggressive dogs, you either make friends with them or you are seen as a potential enemy. And it's my posture that because these are your family members, you'll see throughout this, if you read the Sheriff's Department report, I have never asked for the destruction of these dogs. Never. All I wanted was containment. That was it. Because I recognize that your dogs are part of your family, just like my dog is part of my family. And that's very important to me because you've spent a lot of time with them, just like I spend a lot of time with my dog. So
Okay,
that's the answer.
yeah. Mr. Jansen, any other questions that you have?
Yeah, one more. Mike, you go back to your training time with dogs. Have they been trained with, let's focus on Broccoli. Has Broccoli been through obedience training?
No, she's been through my training and
That gets off topic because we're really here to look at the sheriff's determination on your dogs.
Well, I understand, but when it comes to who filed the complaint first, I guess I'd hate for that to be the deeming factor of who would ultimately the commission would side with. So I understand. I digress. I think we're aware of the answers to my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Mr. Shea, thank you as well. Sheriff, do you have anybody else that you plan to call as a witness?
No.
Okay,
right. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. And
all right. So at this point, then the sheriff has called his witnesses. So Mr. Jansen, this is your opportunity to testify as a witness. So we're going to place you under oath as well. Would you please raise your right hand? Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I will.
All right, thank you. All right, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Certainly. John Jansen, Jansen. My residence is 1377 Sunnydale Court, Cape Feardas, Wisconsin, 53033.
Okay, and you've obviously received the sheriff's letter. When you look at the incident on May 14th, 2022, were you physically present for that incident?
I don't recall that incident.
Okay, do you recall that incident at all happening?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Okay, all right, for the May 21st incident, were you present for that incident?
Absolutely. I was aware of the incident, being that celebrating my daughter's 15th birthday party with her friends over, and once again, a beautiful day. We were outside, so
Okay.
remember it well.
Yeah, would you please tell us what you recall of that incident?
Certainly. again, my daughter having numerous friends over from her high school, celebrating her birthday. We had the dogs out, had them unleashed, as was quite often up until or anytime thereafter. It hasn't been the case since. But I recall it well because my dogs love chasing our UTV. We have a four-wheeler that we ride around and run the dogs to give them some exercise. Not too far into that, did a lap around the house and was a bit surprised to find Mr. Shea with his dog and my dog in my yard. And again, as he said, it's rather close to the adjacent, how close his backyard is or side yard is to my side yard is separated by just some shrubbery. As I came around, here they stand. I immediately ushered my dog in, assuming that something's happening in my yard. Let's go ahead and put my dog away. So I did just that. Shortly thereafter, word got out to the kids at the party about, oh yeah, there's some kind of incident going on here. And they came forward saying, yeah, as you were racing around the yard, his dog gave chase to you and Nezzy around the yard. So once that was the issue.
I want to make sure I understand what you just said.
Yeah, sure.
Your kid and some of her friends said that his dog was chasing your dog around the yard.
Started on a quick approach there. By the time and you have it right, sir.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
And so we discover what happens here, what the issue was. And a few days, 4 days later, this is when Mike approaches me at home and tells me what I'm going to do. He said he spoke with a number of the neighbors and people in the community, and here's what's going to happen. He priced out a galvanized fence, and hopefully this is in the 29-page report. He priced out a galvanized fence, but the deal was that I was going to install his fence where he requested. I told him that wasn't going to happen. And then he said, well, he's going to have to contact his friends at the sheriff's department. And that's when one of the things he said was true, was yes, do what you got to do, right? To being threatened of what I'm going to do on my own property or perhaps on my property because of the property line dispute, I really gave him no time, none of this for 10 years of being
Clear, this
directed
would-
by this man.
Just to be clear, this conversation would be around May 24th, May 25th, correct?
That's good. Yes.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So that's what this incident stems from. I truly believe with the lack of obedience training, his puppy, as he refers to it, simply bolted out of his yard, and he was going to find some way to put an end to this. It wasn't the first time that that dog left the yard. His previous dog ended up in my pond in the past. And again, I'm a bit more forgiving and understanding, I think, about how dogs are, being that I have certified obedience training, have had my dog around a dozen of other dogs. I understand how difficult it may be for Mr. Shea to contain his.
Yep, okay, so going back then to the incident on October 7th, 2020. Were you aware at all that that incident had happened?
Well, allow me to check that date, please.
Yeah, that's the incident where, according to the sheriff's investigation, one of your dogs pulled your young child across the yard to.
No, we were quite shocked to see this being in any kind of report. Again, my son, we have a quite decent relationship, and there's no way that I would let him be in charge of a vicious dog. Again, obedience training, which he's also attended. I find it really difficult to believe that my son of good size was able to be pulled. And again, it seems rather questionable. I would think the board could agree that the same child that was being dragged across the yard from a front yard while the homeowner's in the backyard somehow bites and attacks this homeowner. And then my son's all able to regain control of this dog. It begs the question.
Yeah, what age would your son have been on October 7th, 2020?
2020, 2 years ago, it would have been 11 years old.
Okay, so he would have been 11 at the time. Okay. And you're saying he doesn't recall this incident happening at all?
No.
Okay.
And again, frankly, if there was some type of incident like this, I think any citizen of a community would report it immediately. Child endangerment at least.
Yeah, and then incident, the fourth incident, which was the August 30th, 2019 incident. What awareness do you have of that incident?
We're talking August. I'm sorry, I don't have the full. Well, I'm sorry, I do, speaking.
Yeah, this would be the incident where
Yeah.
looks like this neighbor was moving into their home.
That's correct. I do recall that. And there is much to be said about that. Yes, again, merely my dogs were off the lead. With her dog moving in, I remember this quite well. I was in the front yard. My dog was sitting at the end of the driveway and watched as her dog came racing towards us. And Mike can attest to this too. There is a number of loose dogs in the neighborhood that have been darting out in front of cars and such. And this was the first incident. What's not in the report is her dog actually made its way up towards our house. And my dog did go out to play. Again, bringing my dog back home, there was no incident there. Nothing of the sort. Matter of fact, my wife and I came back over and said, hey, sorry about how our dogs met running and causing havoc, right? We're like, oh my God, there's dogs running loose here in the street. My wife and I came down and welcome to the neighborhood with a bouquet of flowers. So the flowers weren't in any other capacity other than to welcome them to the neighborhood properly. So yes, I do remember that.
Okay, all right. Did you want to share at all about you referenced it, the obedience training and when they completed that? And, do you have those certificates handy?
I do. I sent them, they should be in the packet. I sent them to Michael.
A chance to look at all the exhibits. Were the obedience training certificates in there?
I'm not 100% sure, but there were two documents that he had sent that were HC like EI documents that I wasn't able to
Okay.
to see what those were. I wasn't able to open those.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Just make sure we have those. Because I saw the survey. Yeah, there's a couple of emails, a survey and the appeal. It doesn't look like those certificates made it into the package.
Well, I'm sorry, I could certainly apply, get that there. Here, if you can see my camera, I do have them here on my phone,
Yeah,
number of them. So,
okay, yeah, we can't see it that well, but I think we'll just recognize that they did complete the obedience training. What's the date that they each completed that training?
here I have, let's see if you can see this. Again, part of me adopting these dogs from Matic, gives us that. We got May 30th, 2015.
Okay, and that both dogs went through at the same time?
No, it was different timing on there. And I got, this looks like it's for, actually, this is for Trinity, my first dog that we had in the neighborhood. That was in February 28th of 04.
Okay, so not interested in that first dog because it's not one of the two dogs in the letter. So
Understood.
the two dogs in the letter, though, they both completed in May of 2015. Am I?
No, not both of them. No, just Trinity, the brown dog. Unfortunately, it looks like I don't have that certificate here. I've been on the road for the last 3 weeks and I've asked my wife and kids to help support documents here. So yeah, it turns out I don't have Nezzy's file in front of me. However,
So you don't have the certificate for when Nezzy or Niobe completed?
Niobe, I certainly do on here, yeah. And that again was that was May 30th, 2015.
May 30th of 2002? Did I hear that right?
15.
2015, okay.
And 2002, I don't think my dog would have teeth to bite.
Yeah, so May 30th, 2015 is when Naomi completed obedience training,
That's correct.
and you don't have.
I don't have that document for Nezzy in front of me. no.
Nezzy. But Nezzy did go through obedience training.
He's been through obedience training, yes.
Okay, yep. Did you have any other testimony that you wanted to offer related to these incidents?
Testimony, I do have some other documentation that I couldn't get through. It's a video of the Shea family on my yard on July
Yeah.
19th.
Yeah, that doesn't relate to these incidents.
It,
So,
no, but it would certainly give you a character of that. I certainly wouldn't tread into a yard of a vicious dog days after I've
okay, yeah,
accused that.
yeah, that does, yeah, that's gonna be too far afield. here.
Sure.
So,
If
yeah.
we-
Yeah, did you have
certainly
other
if we take this further.
testimony?
No, my witnesses, they happen to be in high school today. Again, I would love to have been there in the
Yeah. Yeah.
public eye. I do have vet records, and again, through
Yeah.
COVID for the last 2 years, the vet's policy is to take the dogs themselves without the owner. There hasn't been any issue. The dogs have been in a number of times for bites that they've actually incurred themselves. And these records would speak for themselves. And again, another witness to this would be Country Air dog kennels.
Yeah.
There too.
And I think we can take that as it is. If that's in the packet in your appeal letter, we can recognize that we've had third-party providers take care of these dogs without them being in your presence, and they haven't had any issues. So, yeah, we can take that. Let's see, questions that you guys have? Yep.
Can you tell me what the status of your dogs are today? Are they in compliance with the existing order from the sheriff?
They certainly have been. Again, I'm on the road. I can't, I testified here today. I can't say for sure that what's going on, but we do have muzzles. We do have the signage. We do have short leads. We have all this in place, yes. The dogs haven't been, there hasn't been any incidents since May 21st here with my dogs in any sense. So we've been compliant well before the request from the deputy.
Okay. Also, has there been any update to the status of the fence that was referenced in the packet?
Unfortunately, I've been stonewalled. Last submittal for this fence was back in October 13th was the last time I dropped it. I dropped my fourth proposal off to the village there too. Again, stonewall is probably the best way to put it.
Yep, all right. And I don't think we want to go any further with the fence issues there.
Again, in the 29-page report, in reference to any fence,
Mr. Jansen, I think that's as far as we want to go with the fence
Okay.
issues. Are there other questions from the committee? Yep,
Our ordinance talks, these are rescue dogs. When you rescue a dog, do you have any history? Do you get any background on the dog?
unfortunately, not so much, other than the professionals at Matic, Milwaukee area domestic animal control. Their guidelines are that they're not going to adopt out a dog that they would deem vicious or uncontrollable. So again, working with them throughout the years, the last 20 some years, I think, that we've been dog owners through Matic, we know their policy and their dog selection well.
okay. Sheriff, did you have any questions for Mr. Jansen?
Mr. Jen, the only thing I would say, so can we agree that there was an incident that occurred on October 7th, 2020? I know there's some discrepancy as to, you know, I'm sorry, let's go back. I'm sorry, I'm speaking of August 30th, 2019, where you brought flowers to the homeowner that just moved in. So something occurred there, but maybe exactly not what there's maybe a dispute of the facts, but some incident occurred with your dog and their dog on that date?
Yeah, it was, as far as what occurred from what I've seen, was they simply were in the neighbor's yard at the same time.
So there's no reason to indicate that something did not occur on that date. I guess that's my point.
No, something did occur.
All right. And so my question then is, that same complainant told us that she was bit on October 7th of 2020. So something occurred. It was reliable enough that it occurred in 2019. So do you think she's lying in 2020?
I think lying, or again, with a number of dogs running loose in the neighborhood, some of which show up in my yard and have been turned over to animal control and the sheriff's department over the years. Yeah, it happens. The account of another incident of some dog being in another neighbor's yard without full description begs the question, are we talking about the same people here? Are we talking about the same dogs? I wouldn't want to call her a liar, but perhaps she's mistaken as to whose dog was in her yard at that time.
Okay. And then the only other question that I have for you, Mr. Jansen, is can you tell me why the vaccinations weren't up to date?
It was
May incidents.
It's a horrible excuse for many of things in our society nowadays, but it was an oversight due to COVID. Prior to that, all the dogs have been up to their shots, their licensing throughout the entire time, that 10 years that I've been living in Hubertus. Small oversight, and they've tested healthy time and time again.
And then the last thing, so were you present when the deputy was at your residence and took pictures of your dogs?
Took pictures? No, he did meet my dogs on 2 occasions, once with myself there and once with my wife there. I'm not aware of any pictures he may have taken.
Okay, so when the deputy was there with your dogs, would you agree that they were not aggressive towards the deputy?
No, much like when Mike interacted with them in the past, they've rolled over and hopefully that was recorded.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to point out in your defense, that when the deputy
Thank you,
was
sir.
there with you present, that the dogs were not aggressive at all. They
Right.
sniffed the deputy, but not, they weren't aggressive. It's the unpredictability that I'm concerned with.
Certainly. Yes, that time when he met with me and the dogs, they were actually outside on a lead. And then when he met with my wife, perhaps that's when he took pictures. He was inside my residence while she was off getting fence documentation for him.
Okay,
Okay.
that's all I have.
All right. So I think, is there any last testimony you wanted to offer, or were there any other witnesses you wanted to bring forward?
Myself?
Yeah, is there any other testimony you wanted to offer?
Again, I would just encourage the board to review my appeal, the letter that I sent in. I do have other supporting video of both of 3 different occasions here. I've recorded video, so perhaps now's not the time to introduce that. If this is forced to take, if I'm required to take further steps, my legal counsel will play by the rules then, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know that the video, unless it's of one of these incidents referenced in the sheriff's letter, I don't know that we need to enter that. I think we can recognize that there have been incidents of positive interaction between Mr. Shea and your dog. So,
Sure.
yeah. All right. Did you have any other witnesses you wanted to call?
No, not this time, but moving forward, we've now adorned our house with video cameras across all aspects to ensure that we
Yeah,
do
I don't
have.
think we need to go any further along that.
Sure.
route.
Understood.
Sheriff, is there any other testimony you think needs to be added to the record?
No.
Okay, so I think at this point, we've got all the testimony that we need. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session so that we as a committee can review the testimony. Okay, Supervisor Milliken, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Supervisor Toma. So all those in favor of going into closed session, raise your hands. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna go into closed session, so we'll ask that